Hi viewers and welcome to the channel. In this week's video I'll be discussing Tesla, which feels a little bit outdated given the incredible year it's had, but obviously the outlook for the stock remains one of much debate. A lot to discuss here. So yeah, just a bit of a chart here just showing Tesla versus both the S&P 500 and ASX 200. Not a huge surprise that we've seen, at least in the last 18 months or so, the stock, which had really underperformed quite considerably, start to recover very quickly. It was up 300% or so before COVID hit. Then it fell back, as did the whole market, before markets started to stabilize. And now we've seen it reach new highs and is now up almost 1,200% in 5 years. Got here four main points, I think, that I think are worthy of discussion on their own. These are qualities supporting Tesla's rally, and what I think largely the short sellers, because it has been one of the most shorted stocks, certainly on the US market, what short sellers have gotten wrong. Probably the first one I would say isn't a huge shock, and I wouldn't say short sellers out there were necessarily missing this, but there's no doubt that the overall trend globally is that there will be more and more efforts by both governments and companies to go green. Tesla is obviously an electric vehicle manufacturer. Its vehicles produce no carbon dioxide, and therefore it will automatically have the government support in the future. That will mean that it's going to be a lot cheaper effectively for it to produce its cars, and obviously consumers as well are not to be ignored in this. More and more accepting of climate change and more desire to do their part to reduce their own impact on climate change. Even Australia, just looking at the proliferation of solar shows, I think, how much, and this was obviously only now we're really seeing how cheap solar has become for power generation, and that's changed a lot over 10 years. But even before it was so cost effective, a lot of Australians have been very comfortable going green over time. Tesla, and I should say that is not something that leaves Tesla ahead on its own. For the most part, all big automotive manufacturers are trending green as well. They are providing their own electric vehicle alternatives and hybrids, and this is not them alone, but this means the category itself has got a lot of space to go, and its total addressable market is going to be getting larger and larger. And now the next view of why Tesla itself is probably best placed to take advantage of this. There's no doubt that Tesla has kind of been the pioneer in battery technology. They don't only produce batteries for their cars, but also they do provide batteries for home ownership, for homeowners. But there's no doubt that their technology is the best. The cost of their batteries are getting cheaper. They're getting more efficient. There's no reason why that's not going to continue. Cars are going to be able to go further on a single charge. Obviously, the convenience of not having to to go to petrol stations, to be able to charge your car at home, and also I think this is another huge factor, is that this has had a major impact on the economics of car ownership. When you buy a motor vehicle with diesel or petrol, or you do see over time that is a depreciating asset, and it is an asset that will get worse over time. It will become outdated. However, the Teslas, because they have far fewer moving parts, its cars actually don't devalue anywhere near as fast, and arguably the Tesla cars actually get better over time. They do provide software updates over time. They do provide new features, and if you look on any second-hand car website, you'll see that Teslas sold a few years ago aren't really going for a great deal less than what they did. So it might ultimately be one day that it is a far more, despite the higher cost these days, in the early days of Teslas, that it's a far more appropriately financially responsible decision to buy a Tesla over a motor vehicle. And the other main consideration, point 3 here, is of course that Tesla primarily is a software company rather than a car or a battery company, if you break it really down, that gives it a huge advantage, and I think an advantage that I don't think its competitors can ever catch up in. Right now, it has so many cars out on the road, accumulating so much data that it is using to make its vehicles get better and better and better. This is just something its competitors can't do. So the sheer fact that its product gets better over time, and obviously I haven't even mentioned what I've put here in point 3 is that autonomous driving is kind of the next frontier in car ownership. Will it be for the future Tesla owner that not only can they have an asset that doesn't depreciate over time, that is the sort of asset that they can actually potentially put to use, and for example, catch their Tesla to work, and then while they're at work, use their Tesla as an Uber, earning them income throughout the day. Autonomous driving is not some 20 years into the future technology. Tesla is already at the point where it's comfortable that it can that its cars can self-drive, and regulatory approval is really the only thing standing between that reality and it being in the market right now. I think it's only a matter of time before that does become the reality. Its testing shows that, and I don't think this is a huge surprise, that its automated car driving is far safer than human driving, and given the processing power and obviously the flaws of the human brain and human eye, etc., I don't think there's any huge surprise in this. So these trends are huge, and this is automotive car sales are about 70 million cars a year right now, and that's probably going to continue to go up. I don't know the long-term estimates on that. And right now, Tesla's probably annualizing at about 700,000 sales a year. So it's got about a 1% global market share. Given these trends that I just talked about, given in 10 years, possibly the vast majority of cars on the road are going to be electric vehicles. Perhaps the vast majority of them are going to be autonomous driving vehicles. What's the potential for Tesla in that estimate? And I would say, largely limitless. So I have had questions about what's my price target on Tesla. Do I think it's going higher? And I probably wouldn't say I have a price target or that it's necessarily going higher in the short term. However, the long-term theme and the long-term trend in this sector just can't be ignored, and Tesla is easily the most well-placed to capitalize on that, and it's just such a large total addressable market that that they only need to ultimately have a pretty small market share, but it's going to be a lot higher than 1% for an investment today to look pretty good in 5 or 10 years. And the last part as well, this is not necessarily a commentary on its prospect as a solid investment when considering its value, but rather the sheer dynamics on what's driving the share price in the short term is certainly the inclusion in the S&P 500 has changed things. Tesla to some degree has been a trading stock. Certainly the Robinhood investors have been big backers of Tesla, but now this is time where big index tracking funds need to make their calls on Tesla, and can they be left behind by not having exposure? And not surprisingly, that's pushed some buying in the stock recently, and there's no reason why that can't continue over time. And I just thought I would show as well the chart of Tesla versus its peers in some of the biggest peers in the world, in Volkswagen, Ford and Toyota. Really, over the last 5 years, Tesla hasn't done a great deal, and kind of been trading in line. And it's really over the last year that its opportunity has been started to be recognised, and its performance has been great. But the performance of the other auto makers out there hasn't been that bad. Certainly not suggesting that the outlook for them has worsened, but if things go really well for Tesla and they start to take market share, significant market share, then perhaps the picture for these other ones won't look as pretty in the future. Anyway, that's it. Thank you very much for viewing. If you like this video, don't forget to click like and subscribe, and we'll be back shortly for another video.